God bless and welcome back to another edition of the Bible Word of the Day. I am the Sound Doctrine Minister Junior Vasquez, and today's Bible Word of the Day is Genesis chapter 32, verses 22 through 31. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Then the man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with man and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please, tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It was because I saw God face to face, and I lived." May God bless the reading of His Word. When we hear this story, we say, wow. Why and how can a man really wrestle with God? But if you think about it, we wrestle with God all the time. Whether it's sin or fear or just something that we have to go through with God alone. We wrestle with Him. And the interesting thing here in the story is that this man, Jacob, God's servant, his name meant one who strives, or the heel catcher. And he wrestled with God and man. The angel of the Lord, who we believe was this man to wrestle, and we also believe that the angel of the Lord is a theophany or Christophany, which is a term that basically means an appearance of God in another form, in form of a man or an angel or whatever you may want to do. So we believe that this man that wrestled with Jacob was actually a pre-Bethlehem Christ before Jesus became born to the Virgin Mary. This was thousands of years before that. So what we need to learn from this message is that God is willing to do whatever it takes to bless us. And sometimes that even may mean that He has to kick our butt, like He kicked Jacob's butt here. A couple of quick things I want us to learn to really get deep in our spirit about this passage. 3 things. Number 1 is that you're not crazy if you're wrestling with God about something. It's natural for us because we, of course, obviously we don't know everything, but like Jacob, we wrestle with God to receive a blessing. We say the same thing. "Lord, I'm not going to stop bothering you. I'm not going to stop getting at you until you bless me." Sometimes we wrestle with God on the flip side of that coin when we are dealing with a struggle. But Jacob didn't stop fighting. We must hold on to God during the times that we feel we need to fight. We need to hold on to Him and not let Him go during crazy times until He settles it. The second point is that we must recognize that when God is trying to get our attention, He will use a situation like this in secluding us, like Jacob. He was all alone, and He called him out. Now the thing about Jacob is that, the story goes that he left his uncle's town with his wives and his property. He was on the run from his uncle, and he was getting ready to meet up with his brother that he cheated many years before, and cheated out of the hereditary blessing. So Jacob was in a tough spot. And we have to acknowledge that God wants us sometimes to have God time. And that's what happened here. Jacob sent his family over. Specifically it says, and he was left alone. And while he was left alone, God dealt with that issue. So the second point is that we have to recognize that we have to have God time. The third point and last point is that we cannot make a plan B. We need to stick to God's plan A. Now God originally told Jacob, I will never leave you. I'm going to expand you and make your name great and carry through the blessing and the promise of your fathers. But Jacob, using carnal eyes, which we all do, saw that he had to make a plan B. So he sent half of his flock, half of his wives, half of his children ahead, and he figured you'll keep the other half behind so that if his brother Esau would kill him and kill everyone there, at least he still had that remnant, that leftover group to continue his name. So we cannot make a plan B, because obviously we see in the story that God came through and his plan A was the best plan. So walk in obedience, trust God's plan, hold on to him when you are wrestling with things, and make sure you have that God time, because that's the time that God will beat you down to build you back up, and it's a good thing. I pray that you are blessed in this day and that you will trust God in that way, that you can know that whatever's going on is because it's for your best interest. So thank you for joining the Bible Word of the Day, and I will see you next time. Be blessed, and God bless.